All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about a substance with, well, a truly split personality. I mean, on one hand, it's a life-saving medicine. On the other, it's a dangerous party drug. And somehow, it's also a revolutionary new treatment for mental health. So, how can one single chemical be all of these different things at once? That is the puzzle we are going to unlock today.
So first up, let's meet ketamine, the hero. For more than 50 years, this has been an absolutely crucial tool in emergency medicine. See, it provides really powerful pain relief and sedation, but it doesn't suppress breathing like a lot of other anesthetics can. That's made it a go-to on battlefields and in emergency rooms all over the world, saving countless lives in some of the most intense situations imaginable.
But then, you have its alter ego. Since the 1970s, ketamine has been used illegally in clubs and at festivals. You probably heard it called Special K. Its powerful hallucinogenic and dissociative effects have made it popular, for sure, but also a really, really risky recreational drug.
And now we have its third identity. And honestly, this might be the most surprising one of all. Over the last couple of decades, science has rediscovered ketamine as one of the biggest breakthroughs in psychiatry. For patients who are struggling with severe, treatment-resistant depression, it can bring relief not in weeks or months, but sometimes in just a matter of hours.
So this brings us to our big question, right? How can a single substance be a battlefield anesthetic, a psychedelic club drug, and a fast-acting antidepressant? Well, the answer really comes down to dose, context, and some pretty fascinating brain science.
Let's begin with what you might call the light side of ketamine's story. Its incredible and kind of weird journey through medicine.
You know, ketamine's path was anything but a straight line. It was first made back in 1962, believe it or not, as a safer alternative to the anesthetic PCP. By the 70s, it was a total staple in medicine. But the real twist in the story came in the year 2000, when this landmark study showed it could rapidly lift people out of depression. That discovery was so huge that by 2019, a specific form of it, S-ketamine, was officially approved as a nasal spray, giving brand new hope to people who hadn't found relief from any other treatments.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because the dose completely changes what the drug does. Just look at this table. We're talking about racemic ketamine here, which is the standard medical form. At a high dose, you get full-blown anesthesia. But drop that dose way down, and you get powerful pain control. And at a very specific low dose that's infused slowly over time, that's when you unlock its antidepressant properties. It's like having the same key, but using it to turn different locks, depending on how you use it.
And the speed of that antidepressant effect is what's just so revolutionary. I mean, think about it. Traditional antidepressants can take weeks, even months to kick in. But with ketamine, the effects on mood often peak just 24 hours after a single infusion. If you're someone in the absolute depths of depression, that kind of speed isn't just helpful, it can be life-changing.
And this quote really puts it all into perspective. Experts genuinely consider ketamine to be one of the most impactful psychiatric drugs in decades. It's not just a new treatment option, it has completely changed how scientists even think about the biology of depression itself.
Okay, but for all of its incredible medical promise, ketamine has a really dark side. And to get the whole picture, we absolutely have to look at its recreational abuse and the dangers of what's known as the K-hold.
At the very heart of recreational ketamine use is this chase for the so-called K-hole. Now, this is nothing like the controlled, low-dose experience you'd get in a clinic. We're talking about a high-dose, super intense dissociative state where users feel completely and utterly detached from their own body and everything around them.
And this really highlights the fundamental risk. The K-hole is just profoundly unpredictable. For some people, it might feel like this spiritual, eye-opening journey. But for others, it's a straight-up terrifying experience, just filled with confusion and intense fear. And the scary part is, you never know which one you're going to get.
The psychological risks are obviously huge, but the long-term physical damage from chronic abuse can be absolutely devastating. One of the most severe and well-documented consequences is a condition simply known as ketamine bladder.
And let me be clear, this is not some minor side effect. Chronic ketamine abuse can cause severe, painful inflammation and scarring of the bladder wall. This leads to a constant, urgent need to urinate, severe pain, incontinence, and in the absolute worst cases, it can cause irreversible kidney damage or even the complete loss of bladder function. It's truly awful.
When you put the short-term and long-term effects side by side like this, the contrast is just so stark. The immediate effects that users are often seeking, like dissociation and hallucinations, well, they give way to a really grim reality with long-term use. Things like memory loss, paranoia, psychosis, and of course, the severe physical harm like the bladder damage we just talked about.
So we have these two totally different stories, a targeted, powerful medicine on one side and a destructive, dangerous drug on the other. How on earth do we connect them? Well, the answer is inside the brain.
This is the key to the whole thing. It's not two different drugs, it's one drug that has one primary way of working in the brain. So how does that single action end up producing such radically different results?
Okay, here's the core science. Let's break it down. Ketamine is what's known as an NMDA antagonist. You can think of glutamate as the brain's main go signal. It gets everything firing. What ketamine does is it blocks one of the key docking stations for that signal, called the NMDA receptor. And that one simple action is what changes the entire flow of information in the brain.
Now, this is where it gets kind of paradoxical and really cool. You'd think that blocking a go signal would slow the brain down, right? But at low doses, ketamine does the exact opposite. The leading theory is something called the disinhibition hypothesis. Think of it like this. The brain has accelerator neurons and brake neurons. Ketamine seems to act on the brake neurons first. By blocking the receptors, it basically takes the foot off the brake. And with the brakes off, the accelerator neurons just start firing like crazy. This creates a huge surge of that go signal, glutamate, which is what helps kickstart new connections between brain cells.
And that's it. That's the unified theory. That controlled glutamate surge you get at low clinical doses is what's thought to rapidly rewire the very circuits in the brain that are damaged by depression. But at the massive, uncontrolled doses of recreational use, that surge becomes an absolute flood, completely overwhelming the brain's circuits and causing that profound sensory disconnect of a K-hole. It's the same mechanism, just with radically different outcomes based on the intensity.
So, where does all this leave us? Well, ketamine's story is really a perfect case study in the very complex future of powerful psychoactive medicines.
And how you take the drug matters immensely. This chart shows something called bioavailability, which is just a fancy way of saying how much of the drug actually makes it into your system. With an IV infusion, you get nearly all of it, which allows for very precise control. A nasal spray, on the other hand, delivers less than half of that, and taking it orally gives you even less. This is so important for understanding why a controlled clinical infusion is a world away from unregulated street use.
So in the end, the story of ketamine is really a story of context. The exact same molecule can be an incredible tool for healing or a path to serious harm. And the final outcome is really defined by these three key things: the precise dose, the safety of the setting, and of course, the intent behind its use.
And all this leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. As science continues to explore these compounds that were once just written off as purely recreational, ketamine forces us to ask a really difficult question. What truly separates a medicine from a drug? Is it the molecule itself, or is it all about how we as a society choose to use it?